Lorenzo, I think we can start. If you could mute everyone and start the recording so that whoever is not able to join us live can listen to the recording. So this webinar is about the area council operation and especially on the process to recommend the next area director. You will know probably that starting from this year, the area council is in charge to recommend the next area director to the incoming district director. So this is why we are holding this webinar to give you an idea of how this process should be run. So let's start by reminding what is an area council. The area council is a management group for the area, and it is the responsibility of the area director to hold at least 2 area councils during the year. Now, that might not have happened in the past, and especially in some areas. Maybe some other areas have been better. I remember when I was the area director, I really struggled with running the area council, and my first area council was awful. I didn't really know how to run it. But I think that's part of the Toastmaster experience. We learn by doing. So the following times I did it a little bit better. Feedback, as always, is a great opportunity and the important tool to help us grow. Area councils should be conducted in person when practical. For example, you could try to hold them in connection to your area contest, but they can also be run on Zoom or any other online tool. I think you can ask the district for support on this. District has a Zoom account, and you can ask for a Zoom slot to run your area council. One important thing, at least in theory, the area director should notify attendees at least 4 weeks in advance about a meeting. Now, I know this is sometimes a bit hard to do, so let's try to meet this requirement, but I would say in this phase, especially if you have not done them before, I would be okay, even if it's a shorter advance notice. If you want to know all the details and regulation behind it, look at the policy and protocol document of Toastmaster International, and in particular look at protocol 7.1, district events, area council meetings. Now, who is part of the area council? The area director is the chair of this council, and the members are the club president, the VPE, club vice president education, the VPM, club vice president membership. In addition, if the area director has appointed them, the assistant for the area director program quality, the assistant for club growth, and the area secretary are part of the area council and are voting members of the area council. The area council has a number of functions. It is there to provide assistance to club officers. It's a place where club officers can come together and share things. First of all, it is the means through which the area director organizes the club leadership training. So the COT, club officer training, is done through the area council So in the area council, you should decide who is organizing it, which club is hosting it, when it's going to be held, and so on. It's also a place where you can share membership building ideas or programs, events. You can identify opportunities to organize new clubs or to run educational programs or share best practice and activities in public relation or club administration. It's the place to organize area speech contest. Again, decide which club is going to host it, who is going to chair it, when it's going to happen, and so on. It's also the place where you can discuss and decide about inter-club activities and review the goals for each club in the area. It's meant to be a place where each club can show how they're doing and maybe share news, ideas, suggestions, or even problems that they're having, discuss their needs and see if maybe other clubs are having same needs and maybe the area director or the district can help, or just discuss problems and issues and maybe find that your neighbor in another club has already had that kind of problem and has actually a solution for it. The idea is to keep communication open, to discuss issues, and the area director then will report them to the district director, to the division director, so that the district is able to help. Now, a typical agenda for the area council would include 3 things plus 1. It would include a discussion of the club situation or club success plans and their progress on the Distinguished Club Program. It would discuss the club officer training. It would discuss plans for area events, especially contests. And at least once it should discuss the area director of the following year. According to our district council decision taken last May, the appointment of the area director is done by the district director on the basis of a recommendation coming from the area council. So in our district for this year, February 28 is the deadline for submitting through the DLC to the incoming district director your area council recommendation for the person that should be the next area director. I'm going to share with you a template for the area council agenda. I've actually shared it with all the area directors. So area directors, you will find this template in the shared Google Drive under the training in Torino. So DOT Torino and then DOT, and there you will find this template which you can use. So let's talk a bit more in detail about the next area director. First of all, just a reminder, what is the role of the area director? The area director should provide district contact, support, and assistance to all the clubs in his area, so that each club may achieve its club mission and fulfill its responsibilities to the members. Now remember, the district exists to support the clubs. So all the district officers are there to help the clubs successfully meet the responsibilities they have towards their members. The area director should also help clubs by visiting them at least twice a year, and being in regular contact with the club presidents in any way, by phone, by email, whatever. So you know, as club president, that you can always rely on the area director for whatever need you might have, in connection with Toastmasters, of course. And finally, the area director should try his best or her best to achieve distinguished area program goals, because that is a way in which we can make sure that each club in the area is distinguished, which in turn means that the club is giving a good service to the members. The district success plan, the area success plan, the club success plans are all geared towards reaching this objective of giving the best service possible to the members. Qualifications and competences of an area director. The area director should have served as a member of an area council. So he or she should have been president, VP or VPM, or maybe one of the assistants of the area director. So you remember, these are the council members. So the following area director should either be currently or should have been in the past one of these figures. Also, Toastmaster gives us an idea of which competences an area director should have. And they actually fall into 4 categories: skills, knowledge, characteristics, and attributes. So for example, for skills, there are 3 competences that an area director should have. He should be able to motivate people. He should be able to coach and mentor, especially club officers, and he should have analytical skills. And Toastmaster even gives us a way to verify if the incoming area director has this kind of competency. Now, this is important because you might have to choose between different candidates for the position of area director. And one way to do it is by actually interviewing those candidates and checking if they have the competences that are required for an area director. Now, we should always remember that Toastmaster is a place where we learn by doing. So I think it's even acceptable that the incoming area director does not fully have all these competences, as long as he or she is interested and willing to actually develop them and already has enough of them. So when you choose your next area director, look at the competences, see which one the area director already has, evaluate which ones you think they're able to get during their year as area director, and then make the best choice. How do you choose the area director? I have prepared for you a recommended process, and it's actually divided in 2 parts. A number of things that should happen before the area council, and a number of things happening during the area council or immediately after. So let's start from things happening before the area council. So the first thing I would suggest to the area directors is to call for a meeting immediately. So they give enough advance notice to all the members of the area council. They should also announce that this particular meeting is going to decide who is the recommended area director for next year. And the meeting will also be open to the candidates for the position of area director. Being open to those candidates means that they should be allowed to participate, although they will not have the possibility to vote unless they are members of the area council. So they can be there as guests if they're not part of the area council, and you will see they also will have something to do, but they cannot vote again if they're not already members of the area council. Another thing which should be done is to interview all the candidates and verify that each candidate has or can and will develop all the competences foreseen for this role. The interview should be ideally carried out by a team of at least 2 members. I would suggest that you try to recruit past area directors or past presidents, because they should have enough experience and they should have seen how things actually work to be able to decide who is a good candidate. All candidates should be interviewed by the same team and in the same way, asking the same questions in order to be able to compare them. This team, which is interviewing the candidates, will then decide who to actually nominate, meaning they think those people are ready for the role of area director, will make a good area director. They could nominate one person, they could nominate more than one person, they can nominate all those candidates which they think are ready and would make a good area director. Once this report is ready, the area director should inform candidates of their nomination or not. If they're not nominated, he should inform them that they can still run from the floor, meaning they can still participate in the voting, and I'll explain a little bit later how this works. The area director should also ask for confirmation that the candidates are still willing to run, and he should forward to the candidates the feedback from the interviewers. I think this is really important. Any occasion in Toastmaster is good to get feedback. So if you are offering yourself as area director, I think it would be interesting to get the feedback of someone maybe who has already been area director or who has a lot of experience and can tell you how good your skills are, and maybe also tell you which ones you might want to develop a bit more. Nominations should also be published at least 1 week before, so the area council knows who are the members that have been selected or nominated as next area director. And of course, a reminder should be sent out with the date and location of the meeting where the voting will happen. Then, when we get to the actual area council, this is the process that I would recommend you follow. During the area council, when it gets to the voting and selecting the future area director, the area director should ask if someone wants to run from the floor. By the way, I'm going to talk a little bit about this running from the floor later, but I would suggest that for this year only, we allow anyone to run from the floor, even if they have not made an application and have not been interviewed. They can nominate themselves if they are part of the council. Otherwise, they need to be nominated by a council member. So if they are president, VP, VPM, or one of the assistants of the area director, then they can nominate themselves. Otherwise, they need one of these members of the area council to nominate them. Then each candidate, both the nominated ones and those running from the floor, should have a 2 minutes speech, and this should be done in last name alphabetical order. Finally, the area director will ask for the area council to vote for the member that they want to recommend as the next area director. If no member gets at least a majority of the votes, then you should drop the one that got less votes and repeat the voting. Once the area council has voted who they would like to see as the next area director, this recommendation should be sent to the DLC chair, which is myself for this year, and this should be done by end of February. Remind everyone that this is a recommendation. The incoming district director could still nominate someone else. So it's up to the incoming district director, so the district director that is voted in May and then will start his work on the 1st of July to actually appoint certain, all the area directors. Once you have a recommended next area director, I think it's important that he or she gets immediately involved in the activities of the current area director, because this is the best way to do a very efficient transition between them. Now, why are we suggesting this kind of process? Because this process mimics the process that we follow to elect district leaders at a higher level. So division directors or parts of the core team, the club growth director, the program quality director, or the district director himself or herself are elected in this way. And the same process is actually used for higher level elections, so for international directors or for officers in the board. Now there is a few areas where we only have one candidate. In that case, I would say the process is pretty much the same, and I would even suggest that you do interview the single candidate. It is still an important learning process, both for those involved in doing the interview and also for the single candidate, because it's an occasion for him or her to get feedback. And then, of course, you do the rest as foreseen before, during the area council, and maybe you might get someone running from the floor. Let me also explain a little bit why only for this year we accept candidates running from the floor, or at least that's my suggestion. At district level, our district bylaws actually say that floor candidates who have not gone through the district leadership committee, which is the committee that evaluates all the candidates, may only be nominated during the annual district council meeting, so running from the floor, if the district leadership committee work is invalid. So if the district leadership committee did work properly, then floor candidates are not allowed for the position of district director, program quality director, club growth director, and division director. For this first year that we are running this new procedure, I suggest that we allow candidates to run from the floor, even if they have not been interviewed, because things are rather new and a lot of people maybe don't even know that we have this goal, even though I think we've made a big effort to make it as widely known as possible. I would also ask the current area directors to do whatever they can to announce the benefits of being part of the interview process, and especially the opportunity to get feedback when you are submitting an application and go through the interview process. It's interesting to get that kind of feedback because it allows you to determine how people see you, and I think this is another value of being part of the interview process for the next area director. I know that officially the deadline to submit the application to be next area director was closed yesterday night, but because we are running this webinar today and because we know that a few persons are still interested, we have extended the deadline. We'll announce this officially later today, and we have extended the deadline until the end of January. So until this Friday, January 31st, midnight on Friday. So you can let those people who are interested and have not yet submitted their application that they can still do it, and they have a few more days to apply. A couple more details coming from questions that were raised yesterday when we did this same training during the area director training. The area director interview committee, which is at least those two people that I suggest interview all the candidates for the position of area director, should present a report with their nominations during the area council and maybe explain the process they followed and say who are the people that they nominated. As I already said, area council can be run on Zoom or other online meeting tools, and you can request a slot from the district Zoom account. Non-members are allowed to participate in the area council without voting rights if invited by the area director, and candidates for the area director position, both those nominated and those who plan to run from the floor, should automatically be invited. When the area director gives to candidates the result of the interview, he or she should also invite them to the council meeting. Candidates do not need to attend the council and may be elected even if they're not present. They can ask to be represented by someone who can even make the 2-minute speech on their behalf. By the way, that 2-minute speech does not have any lead time. So once the 2 minutes are over, we all start clapping. There are no 30 seconds grace period in that case. So it's strictly 2 minutes. A few more details. Nominations from the floor do not need a second, but if I'm not nominating myself, which I can do. I remind you, if I'm a president, VP, VPM, or part of the area council, and someone else is nominating me, I, as a candidate, need to agree with the nomination. Otherwise, of course, this won't work. Strongly recommend interview even if there is only one AD candidate. And the reason is to give him or her feedback and to allow the area council to see how this works and allow some people to actually practice interviewing. During interview, candidates should be made aware of what is needed from an area director, which means traveling to participate to the DOT, District Officer Training, which normally happens in May, immediately after the end of the district conference, beginning of September, and usually end of January or first week of February. Unluckily, it is not always easy to tell in advance what are the exact dates. But those travels should be foreseen, and the travel and some of the costs are actually covered by the district. The area director candidate should also know that he or she should visit at least 2 times all clubs in his area, and that he should have certain social networks participation because of the needs to promote both the clubs and this role. We should also recommend to incoming area directors to have a mentor for their future role. So it's always good to have someone who is mentoring you, and when you're the area director, it's especially important. And for those areas which are non-existing today, but are planned in the future, for example, in our district, we are thinking of adding a new area in Greece. For those areas which do not exist today and would not have an area council, then it's going to be the district leadership committee that will carry out the interview and make the recommendation to the district director, to the incoming district director. There are some people who are applying for more positions. It should be clear that this is happening. The candidate should make it known during the interview. Be careful, because it may cause the interviewers to score down a candidate if it's seen as I just want a place, or it could actually instead score the candidate up if it is seen as I am able to serve as needed. If nominated in more than one area, the candidate should choose where they want to apply. And finally, parliamentary procedure. You know that in area council, in the same way like in the division council or district council, or in the business meeting at Toastmaster International level, we use parliamentary procedure. So this is in particular the sequence that should be used for the elections of the next recommended area director. So the chairing of the voting of the process itself can be done either by the area director or by the chair of the area director interview committee. The chair should present, first of all, the nominations coming from the committee in last name order. And then the chair should call for nominations from the floor, allowing some time for people to show up. If anyone is nominated by another person, the chair should verify that the nominated person actually agrees. Then the chair should give the floor for exactly 2 minutes without any grace period to each candidate or representative of the candidate if the candidate is not there. And this should be done in alphabetical last name order. Then the chair should ask for a vote, and the vote should be repeated if one candidate does not reach the majority of possible votes by dropping the candidate with less votes. Once there is one candidate that reaches majority, the chair should close voting and officially recommend as next area director the candidate that got the majority of possible votes. That concludes this part of my presentation. I would like that you do this in the Toastmaster way. So you learn and have fun in the process of recommending the next area director. And at this point, I would like to open the floor for any questions that might have come up.
Yes, Francesco, Carla speaking, A6 current area director. My question is, do we have a template to follow during the interview, just to ensure a common approach within the district?
I could actually give you a template. I can give you two things. I can give you this, which is the list of competences. Let me put it here again. Oops. Okay, you should see it. So I can give you the list of competences for the area director, and the questions that you should ask in the interview are based on evidence of the competency. I can also give you a scoring sheet, which Toastmaster International has developed. And I can put, this is, I think, already in the shared folder for the area directors. If not, I'll make sure it is. And I can add this scoring sheet. And finally, I can provide a template for questions. But I'm a bit hesitant to do it because I think it's a good exercise if those people who are actually going to do the interview decide their own questions and decide how they want to check if the incoming area director has this kind of competences. It's, I think, part of the learning process and an exercise that should be done. So I would first invite the interviewers to do that, and if not, to use the template that I can provide you with. Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good, either you're all sleeping or I was very exhausting or clear, maybe. If you have questions, you know
I have another question, Francesco.
Go ahead.
In the slide is suggested, of course, to do the interview together with another another person.
Yes.
But and this person could be the previous area director or president.
I'm actually suggesting that you do not as the current area director, you do not make the interview. You ask previous area directors or previous presidents to actually do it. So not do it yourself. Ask the immediate past and some previous area director, some past presidents to do it.
Okay.
If that is possible. So you get a different and a separate view on this candidate.
In fact, this was the point. Perfectly, thank you. Another question again. If the previous area director is a mentor of one of the two candidates, is this considered a conflict?
Well, probably yes.
And so I should look for another person. Okay.
I think it would be best to have someone who has no direct relationship with the candidate. Now, in an area, it's very easy that people know each other and have worked together in the past. So you can also rely on the integrity and the correctness of the interviewers to make the interview and evaluate the candidates in a way that is detached from any personal connection or knowledge of the candidate. And this is also why I think it's important that the interview are done by a team of at least two people so that they have different views.
Okay, thank you.
Francesco, I have a question. The application date until the end of January is very tight, and the area council will probably take place in February.
Yes.
So as the area council has to vote on the candidate, even if it's only one, the application might come later.
Well, we have been pushing the call since Christmas. So candidates had more than 1 month to actually submit their application. We are not going to kill anybody or any area council if you consider someone even later than the deadline that we are suggesting. I think we need to put a deadline because we are putting a deadline not only for applications for area director, but also for applications for other roles, division director, or all the core team members. Mm-hmm. And but it's up to each area to establish how they want to work. If you are interested in accepting candidates even later, try to make it known to everyone so that everyone is treated in the same way, and make sure within your area everyone knows about when the deadline is. Mm-hmm. And consider you, at least for this year, we are suggesting that candidates should also be able to run from the floor. So even if they have not submitted their application before, even if they have not been interviewed, they could still run from the floor and present themselves in those 2 minutes speech that they're going to do. Of course, candidates who have submitted their application in time, have been interviewed, have been nominated, should be valued in a different way, but then it's up to the area council to vote and decide who they think is the best representative to become the next area director.
So they could run from the floor in the area council meeting?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, yeah.
At least for this year, this is what we are suggesting. Maybe next year, once the process is more known and people start knowing how these things work, maybe we will go back to applying a more strict rule that like we are having this year for district elections, where candidates can only run from the floor if they have previously been through the interview process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Margarita from Credit Suisse Rhetoric Club in Zurich. I have a question regarding this particular topic. I'm not fully understanding as to why you're agreeing that this year we have candidates from the floor, if before there was a lot of emphasis on fairness, treating people in a similar way. I just don't understand this, because for me this is a bit of a contradiction. Don't get me wrong, I will accept this decision, but I would like to understand, why did you come to this conclusion?
Yeah, let me go back. I had a specific slide on this. Let me try to put it on the screen. Okay. You should be seeing it. Yes, the new district bylaws, so this has changed from this year, ask that floor candidates for the positions of district director, program quality director, club growth director, and division director are only allowed if they've been through the interview process. And the same district bylaws do not actually include area directors in this list. So even if we follow strictly the district bylaws, area directors would not be included in this process. And actually, my perception is that going through the interview process gives you an advantage, meaning that you get some people to ask you questions, and at the end of the process, you also get some feedback about how you did. So in general, I would strongly suggest to anyone wishing to run for any position to go through the interview process. Those candidates who actually get nominated normally have an advantage. If you do not know a candidate and you are asked to vote for someone, normally you would prefer someone who has been nominated against someone who has not been nominated, because you will trust that those who nominated him know best. Now, since this is the first year that we are asking area councils to indicate what they think is the best candidate for the next area director, we are suggesting to area council to also accept people running from the floor. Because the process is fairly new, as I said, not everyone is aware of the call. Someone might not know it. The process might be new, is new for a lot of people. And this is why we are suggesting to be a bit more flexible and accept even people running from the floor. I think the area director should make it clear, or the chair of the interview committee should make it clear what was the process through which those candidates who were interviewed went through, and should also make it clear that it's possible for this year to also run from the floor, but should also show that there is some kind of difference. With this, without influencing too much the vote. I mean, it doesn't have to be that someone running from the floor is very bad. I also have a personal experience when I was running for division director. I went through the interview process and actually I was not nominated, but I did go through the interview process. Once I knew I was not nominated, I actually campaigned. And that was a very interesting experience, which I would invite anyone interested in actually performing. And in the end, during the election process, I was actually elected division director. So running from the floor in different ways, you can do it because you have been through the interview process and you've not been nominated, but you still want to take the role, or doing it without having been through the interview process. It's different ways, shows maybe different levels of involvement. And I would say that it's up to the area council to decide who they think is the best person, taking into consideration everything. The person, the process it went through, the speech that the person makes during those 2 minutes. Sometimes that final speech is also very important, and you can understand a lot of things from that. We know that area director, like all district officer positions, are mainly leadership positions, but a leader must also be a very good communicator. So checking how good someone is in making a speech and how prepared that speech appears to be is also, I think, a way to evaluate a candidate. For all these reasons, we are suggesting this process. It's a test. It's something new, Margherita. We haven't done it before. In our district, it used to be the district leadership committee that would evaluate all the area directors. And sometimes that meant that people who were in the area found that the area director selected was not the best person because those interviewing the area director didn't know who was the best choice for the area. This is why I think it makes sense that it's the area council deciding it. It's the rules from TI actually established this. It's not, in the past we haven't done it this way, but now we're trying to follow the rules and seeing if this works best. If it doesn't work, or if the results are not as good as we hope it would be, then maybe next year we can change the district procedure and go back to a different process. And also maybe change the process for actually running the voting. Okay.
Apology, thank you.
No apologies. And sorry for the long explanation, but I wanted to get across the rationale and also check if you think the rationale is good. I think in everything in Toastmaster, getting feedback is important. So maybe the experience that will come out of these area councils will be very important in deciding how to, if possible, modify this process to make it better in the future. It's strangely enough, there is not a lot of guidance from TI on this particular process. So I think the best guidance we can get is the experience of having run it and having seen the results. So next year we'll be in a better position to do it better. Okay, any other comment, suggestion, question, whatever? If not, you know, you can reach me, and let's see if I don't have it here. Do I have it? No. Okay, we'll put it somewhere. My email address is dlc.chair@district109.org. And you can write to me and ask any question. I would love to have feedback on the experience in running the area council. If you have issues in actually running the area council and you want help, please let me or someone else in the district know, because maybe we can be of support, or maybe we can ask our parliamentarian to help you in actually running the area council, which I think can be important, especially if it's the first time that you're running an area council. In some areas this has not been so common, so maybe getting some support the first few times you do it is important. Thank you very much for having been with me tonight. I look forward to getting your feedback. Don't forget.